and it's
It looks
and
good. It looks good.
good. And my head's not off the top or anything. All right, you ready?
You can lower yourself a little,
Okay,
just a little bit.
just you ready?
Yep. There we go.
Okay.
We get the full hair treatment, which
Yeah.
I envy. Go ahead.
Skull, and welcome to Overlanders That Are Now. I'm Tom Bingle, and good day to my fellow backpacker, Jim King.
Hey, Binks, and hello to all of you who've joined us. We hope you're enjoying our blog and these videos as much as we're enjoying putting them together.
Oh, God, Jimmy, absolutely. We're glad you're here. We started this project for family and friends, and it's grown. And now, if you're following us, well, you're officially a friend. So,
Yes.
Doc, where are we off to today?
Well, in our last video, we reflected on our time in Copenhagen, which we both loved for different reasons, but we both agreed it would be hard to beat. So we were eager to see what was in store for us in another Scandinavian capital, Stockholm. So your impressions, Binks?
Oh, Jimmy, first the journey. Never forget. I could not believe that the overnight train included a ferry, but this was no
Mm.
ordinary ferry. It accommodated the whole entire train. We didn't have to leave the compartment. Jimmy, the train went right on the ship. The ship opened up its bow or its aft, and the train went right on the whole train, right across the Strait of Öresund to Sweden, then on to Stockholm. Jimbo, it was a dream come true for a train lover like myself.
Yeah, it was awesome. That's for sure. But, unfortunately, they opened a bridge, the Øresund Bridge
Yeah.
in 2000 that accommodates both cars and trains. So those train ferries became obsolete, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, Jimmy, I agree. It was such a unique experience. And if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, both the train and ferry were crowded and the trip took
Yeah,
all night. I don't think, didn't we have to sleep or try to sleep sitting up?
we did, which may have made me a little bit cranky when we finally arrived in Stockholm.
You cranky? Jimmy, well,
Uh,
the weather
um,
didn't help anyone's mood. It was kind of nasty, Jimmy. Cloudy, chilly, high 20s, and drizzling on and off.
yeah, I mean, th it's amazing how the weather affects your first impressions of a city. I thought, Stockholm was very dreary, but as we, of course, eventually found out it's not at all. In fact, it's quite beautiful. But despite the weather at the time, we set out to explore the city, starting with the Old Town, right?
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
old town, Jimmy, and just well, I'll get to the Gamla stan, but it was fascinating. There was, Stockholm is a city of 14 islands,
Hmm.
comprising 50 footbridges, water everywhere. Very different in that sense, from Copenhagen. But that the thing that hit us so much was the Gamla stan. It was Stockholm's original city center, and it was the answer, so to speak, to Copenhagen's Stroye. Strictly pedestrian, no autos, cafes, restaurants, upmarket shops, homes along the cobbled streets and narrow alleys. Jimmy, I couldn't believe it. Some of them seem I could reach out my arms and touch, buildings on either side of
Yeah.
this Gamla stan.
Yeah. Very, very narrow alleyways, and filled with shops. I'm not a shopper, but it
Right.
was really interesting to walk, in between these buildings that were built in the 16 and 1700s. It was great. So, what struck you most about Stockholm on that dreary day,
Well,
Binks?
Jimmy, as I said, the Gamla stand really saved it for me. But the
Hmm.
other item, again, as in Copenhagen, all ages. It's not just as we would say the hip youth down in that area. No, all ages, older, younger, Jimmy, and it was clean. And again, just that water feel. Jim, I did when we did split for the day, I did take
Hmm.
the Tunnelbahn, that's the subway, just up to areas, just they're older areas, but they're going through a new renovation, and it presented the world of modern suburbia,
Hmm.
just functional, modern, high rise, a little austere. But that Jimmy interesting was a great contrast to the Royal Palace, which has over 600 rooms. And Jim, of course, you and I saw each room with me with the
Yeah, thanks
guidebook
to you.
highlighted.
So true. That was pretty
Yeah, but
amazing.
Jim,
I mean,
What happened to you after we split?
oh God, no. I don't know how this happened, but I wandered. I followed these people into some sort of flower arranging competition. It was like a
Jimmy.
magic show in this big auditorium. It was filled, and they had a bunch of contestants up front, working furiously on arranging flowers. And then when the buzzer sounded, they would hold up their flower arrangement, and the crowd would cheer. It was a little bit different. I wouldn't call that a highlight, but it certainly
Uh-huh.
obviously remains a pretty vivid memory. So that and our first night in a youth hostel.
Oh, Jim, the youth hostel. What an introduction to the international youth hostel movement.
Mhm.
Started early 1900s for students, international students to focus on getting abroad and then having a place to stay where they could penetrate the culture, learn more about the culture. It's really outstanding, Jimmy. We spent that night aboard probably the most distinctive youth hostel
Yeah.
in Europe, the a formerly fully rigged steel schooner from the 1800s, Jimmy, known as the Off Chapman.
Yeah, the off Chapman. Wow, that was really unusual. What do you remember most about that experience?
Jimmy, besides the Billy Budd bunks that we were in, Jimmy, it was the first time outside of meeting one or two backpackers on the train because there was a whole group of them.
Yeah.
So interesting to hear all the different languages. Jim, I remember when the lights would go out, there'd be conversations in 8 different languages, none of them English. We were the only one that spoke English. And some would try to communicate, went out of their way to communicate with us, which was comical. And of course, Jimmy, the price was right. And you know what? It kicked it off. We go to a new city. We're going to look at the youth hostel first from then on.
Yeah, you're right. Some of those hostels were more basic than others, but
Yeah.
the Off Chapman was, truly one of the more unique ones. And I'm pretty sure it was there that you struck up a conversation with a backpacker from Istanbul, which was quite interesting because he didn't speak English and your Turkish was just a little rusty.
Oh,
But
just a little bit, Jim.
but then he did say two words in English, pudding shop.
Yeah, Jim. Yes, I remember. Not the Blue Mosque, not the Hagia Sophia. He kept repeating pudding shop. It was weird until later we learned that the pudding shop was where all the backpackers stopped in Istanbul to share travel stories, swap travel tips as they made their way overland to or from India.
Yeah.
Overland.
Yeah, that phrase, overland to India, really jarred us. We hadn't even considered traveling past Europe, but this really got us thinking, didn't it?
Oh, Jimmy, it did. And we even made us forget about Notre Dame playing USC that day. How about that? But seriously, Jimmy, it kind of made me realize that the things back home that seemed so important were starting to lose their
Hmm.
prominence to what we were experiencing there. New places, new people, Jimmy, new possibilities. It was exhilarating.
Yeah, I honestly think that if you hadn't struck up that conversation, our trip would have been, just another tour of Europe. Not to say that a tour of Europe wasn't exhilarating and,
Yeah,
at least
yeah,
for us,
very
very
much.
unique, but I kind of felt like a rookie whenever we met someone who had ventured overland to India. I thought, why can't we do that?
Oh, yes, Doc. I thought it brought out our competitive nature, both of us. As it
Yeah.
turned out, it changed our plans about returning to the United States anytime soon. Jimmy, any final thoughts on Stockholm, Jimmy?
Well, what stands out, we put this in the written part of the blog, but
Mm-hmm.
I just always remember that conversation with the couple who had been traveling for a couple of years. And I was curious because I kept thinking about, what everybody back home is doing and asked them how they felt about that. And she said something along the lines of, well, yesterday we were in the Arctic Circle. Today we're in Stockholm. Tomorrow we're going to be in Russia. And tomorrow our friends will be at work. So
Great.
it was just kind of reassuring, that this was the time to do what we were doing. It was one of those little gems you always think back on and say,
Yes,
yep,
yes, Jimmy.
this is the right thing to
Unbelievable. Great
do.
perspective. And then as we were moving on now, Jim, what's next now as we push on here?
The land of the fjords.
Norway, Jimmy. Ooh, that's when I feel, Jim, and maybe a moment of nirvana, like I had experienced the awesome power and beauty of nature.
Okay, well, no spoilers now, Binks. Let's
Okay.
let's hold on that for next time.
Oh, Jimmy, okay. Now I can't wait. And we hope all of you are watching will join us. So until then,
Skull, friends.
Skål, friends.
All right. That was not even close that time. We'll have to time
Oh,
it out.
sorry, Jimmy. My